Thanks for watching / listening to Comedy Worst. Please like the episodes. Subscribe. Wherever you're listening. Follow. Wherever you're listening or watching, follow. Thank you. Comedy or Worse presents a free comedy show at Quantum Brewing. Yay! 5375 Kearney Billwood Road, San Diego, California, 92123. Every Friday, 7:30 to 9:30 p.m. Every Saturday, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Yeah, great beer, outside food, and dog friendly. Scan the QR code or go to comedyworst.com/QB.
I've never been late a day in my life, and I'm not going to start today because you need a ride, Tucker.
Welcome back to Comedy or Worse. I'm here with a very special guest.
Oscar and Bernie.
Oh yeah.
Great to be here.
So how you guys doing today?
Excellent. In fact, last night was a lot of fun doing your open mic over there at the Quantum Brewing Company, and I was impressed with all the hard work that you do setting everything up, and you had a lot of talent in there. It was a wonderful evening.
Oh yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, so we have features go first, and you signed up for the open mic, but then I looked at who signed up, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, this guy should be a feature. So we bumped you up through the feature spot.
I appreciate that. It's a lot of fun.
So the features, as long as they're there, because sometimes we have features that don't show up, and then I'll do it a little different. But I'm trying to get everybody used to the features go first, and then the open mic. If someone's gonna do something, really promote the show or hand out flyers,
right?
Bark basically, then they could pop in between a feature or something. But
nice.
Yeah.
And you've been doing comedy a long time, you told me.
Yeah, this is year 7, so
nice.
Over 6 years, and so not as long as you though.
Yeah, first time I got on stage was April of 1976 in Las Vegas at Rancho High, and a lady by the name of Sandy Zimmerman, who's kind of known around Vegas, she had a contest over there. And I won a pink ribbon, and I thought to myself, what a way to start in a comedy, a pink ribbon, they didn't have a blue one? That's what you get.
That's funny. Yeah, that was a way different time. So have you been doing comedy the whole time?
Yes. In fact, I've had some great experiences. With the puppet here, his name is Bernie because I'm a big fan of George Burns. And I was able to sit with him in his dressing room at Caesar's Palace, and Charo was the opening act for him. And I went in there with a picture of me and the bird, and I said, I was lucky to get in there. I sailed in there, I dropped to my knees, I took his hand, I said, God bless you, George, thanks for seeing me. He was wearing an orange robe, smoking a cigar, and drinking a martini. And he says to me, what's up, kid? And I said, I do your voice with the puppet. And he goes, well, let's hear a little bit. So I did his line that he was famous for, I'm very happy to be here tonight. I'm sold. I'm happy to be anywhere. And he laughs, and he looks at me, and he goes, I got to tell you, kid, I flopped in show business for 20 years before I made it. And I said to him, I go, George, that makes me feel good. And he goes, why is that? I said, I flopped for 10. I'm halfway there. So he starts laughing, and he goes, kid, don't you ever quit. And that was when he was 95 years old. So it's been a few years. It's been about 35 years since then. And I've had some great experiences over the years meeting different people. At the Sands Hotel, Sam Kennison come walking out, and I said, hey, Sam, we got mutual friends. He goes, hey, who's that? And I said, Larry Scarano. And he goes, how the heck do you know Larry Scarano? Well, he did Comedy's Dirtiest Dozen with Thea Vidal and Chris Rock when Chris was just starting out. Yeah. And I said, well, because he was from Vegas here. And he goes, I was getting us $30 a night at Mexican restaurants in L.A. I said, Sam, that's why he left me. I could only get him 20 in Vegas. And then he goes, well, who else you know? I go, Michael Jazelka. And he goes, how do you know Mickey? He was one of the original outlaws of comedy. We went to the same high school, Brecksville, Ohio.
Wow.
Yeah, he was class of 73. I said, Sam, I was class clown of 72, and Michael was class clown of 73.
Wow.
But then this last year, he did the World Series of Comedy, and I didn't realize, we got together, I hadn't seen him in a number of years, That was probably about 25 years ago. I did a little bit of performing with him in Vegas. He's a wonderful headliner.
Yeah.
And the funny thing of it was is he told me, I thought he graduated from our high school. He was a president of the class. Well, his parents up and moved him to L.A. in the middle of his senior year.
Oh.
And I didn't even know that. And he said he was dating a girl, and her parents were saying he's a real funny guy. And he took him to the L.A. Comedy Store, and that's what started off his career. Wow. And there's a music video with Sam Kinison and Michael standing there, too. Back in the day when everybody had mohawk, not mohawks, though. What do they call it with the hair down the back?
Oh,
heck.
I just had it.
Mullet.
Mullet, yeah.
Yeah, a mullet hair.
So close. It was like right on the tip of my tongue. You got it, yeah. That's awesome. So you kind of told how you started in comedy. So,
and what I did was I did an act with
another. Did you get addicted to it right away?
Well, yeah, and what happened was, to be totally honest with you, in 1972, I went to a community college outside of Cleveland, and it was an old VA hospital converted into a community college. Uh-huh. And my fraternity brothers were all Vietnam vets, and they made Animal House look like nursery school. Uh-huh. On the campus, we had our own bar, and my fraternity actually ran a bar.
Wow. And
I was in there, and I said to them, "This is the coldest beer I ever had." And they said, "Well, it should be." I go, "Why is that?" He goes, "Well, this was the morgue, and we keep the beer in the cold storage where we kept the bodies." And these guys were crazy. So most schools would have homecoming, they would have a band. Yeah. We had George Carlin. So Carlin wanted to fuzz a buzz. We fuzzed him out. And I tell my cousin about this. And her husband says, "If you ever get around George Carlin, you better drop my name because I grew up with him." And Bob Campus, God rest their souls, they're all gone now, but when my buddies were going to go see Carlin at the Aladdin, I told them what I just told you, and they go, "Bullshit, pick up the phone and call him." So I called him, I said, "Bob Campus." Next thing I know, George is on the phone. "Bobby, how you doing?" I said, "That's not him," but he said I could use his name. He goes, "Well, who are you, kid?" And I told him, and he's comped me and the wife the front row seats. And then he says, "I want to meet you after the show backstage." Yeah. So I'm backstage with George, and he's going, "What do you want to do, kid?" And I said, "Well, I want to do what you're doing. I was a class clown." He goes, "I got to tell you, the first time I got off stage, they offered me $300 to do an album." So, yeah, and you figure that was in the 60s. It doesn't sound like a lot of money today, but for a guy just getting on stage the first time to be offered anything, it's pretty tremendous.
Yeah, like to be offered an album, like that's...
Yeah.
That's like a Netflix special, okay?
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
We gotta update these people.
Right off you getting off stage. So I kept in contact with him. His license plate was PHUNNY. Funny. And he drove a black Mercedes. He liked drinking Ole's. I hung out with him down at the Improv. I had his phone number, his address. He did the Forrest Duke show with us in Vegas in 1980. Yeah. Now, the crazy thing about that, Drew Carey was a skinny kid with long blonde hair and wire-rimmed glasses. He's sleeping on my buddy's couch. Ironically, Paul R. Brown, and Paul Brown being the founder of the Browns, the Cleveland Browns. No relation between the two, but just kind of a side note there. So now, Carey comes over to my house after seeing me on TV with Carlin and asked me how I got to know him. I said, "Drew, doing comedy, because I learned from Lou DuPont, who worked 3 puppets at the Rare and Bear Burlesque show in the late 70s. You got to get 4 to 6 laughs per minute." And Lou said, "Mark down on a paper, Chico and a man, Sanford and Son, 25 for the 25 minutes they're on. And mark down on a paper every time they got a good laugh or good applause. And if you divide it by 25, he says, I'll guarantee you're getting 4 to 6 laughs per minute." And me and another guy did an act called the Ain't Brothers, because we ain't related. And a side note from that was we went down to the original Gong Show, and a week later, Rip Taylor's doing our material on Norm Crosby's Comedy Store. And you're 26 years old. Now I'm 72. But, you figure you got a shot, you got to do something. Well, about 14 years later, who pulls into the valet at the Flamingo Hotel? It's Rip Taylor, white Lincoln. The confetti's his license plate. And the guy said in the valet booth, "Hey, Rip Taylor's here." And I go, "Yeah, where is he?" And they go, "Out there." So I go out there and I say, "Hey, Rip, do you remember doing a joke, the Polish unknown comic?" And he says, "Oh my God, that was years ago. How do you remember that?" I said, "Because I wrote it." And he starts freaking out. He's going, "Oh, the writers gave it to me. The writers gave it to me." And I said, "I figured that's the case, so that's why they call you Rip." you know. And I would do Walter Cronkite, newly elected Polish Pope George Ringo. Whoops, I mean John Paul is a newly elected Polish Pope. Because of this, now we see the cousin of the unknown comic. Because the Iron Curtain's been lifted, here's the Polish unknown comic. And my partner come out running around with the bag over his head like this, where you could see his face. And in fact, I told Murray Langston about that, who was the unknown comic, and he had a good laugh over that. So anyway, back to Drew Carey. Drew Carey's sleeping on Paul Brown's couch. He brings him over to my house. I'm showing him all my Cleveland memorabilia. I say, Drew, here's the greatest comic I ever knew. My old man, Scorpio Marine. If we put a dozen then guys together, we would have won World War II in a couple of weeks. And that's the picture Drew was staring at in a picture frame. So I put it on this shirt, and we went down to Price is Right. And boy, were they abuzz that day. In fact, I don't even think they aired the show. Because they said there was going to be an air date, and I was looking, it never come up. And Drew then ran off and joined the Marines. Paul Brown took him down to his brother's Neil's house, God rest his soul. And I met his brother Roger in Ohio. Drew was so good for Cleveland. He did so much for the comedy scene. Yeah. I bumped into a girl that was selling hot dogs, and she goes, oh, he tipped me $100. Yeah. I met some guys down by Kent State, and they said, well, yeah, Drew came in with his entourage and wanted to sit here to watch the band. We give up our table for him. Well, he paid for all our drinks and everything. So he's really generous, and he's got a great reputation for that. Sure. You should call me, though, because I'm his Forrest Gump. I don't think he wants to admit to that. Because on Stephen Colbert asked him, where'd you get your famous, iconic look? And he goes, oh, in the Marine Corps, you know, which, you know, I mean, that's fine, but it would have been nice if he said the Birdman in Vegas, you know. He told me, yeah. Funny thing about this, at the Champs Convention, it's a head shop convention in Vegas, Tommy Chong's there. A whole line of people signing autographs. And a girl, her phone wouldn't take the picture for her. So I gave her my card, and I said, here, get a hold of me. I take the picture for you. Yeah. Then I hand my card to Tommy, because I'm known as the comic accountant. I said, Tommy, if you have any IRS problems, get a hold of me, the comic accountant. Yeah. He looks at my card and sees the bird, and he goes, I know you, man. I seen you, man. And he jumps up and starts shaking my hand. Everybody's looking at me like, who the frick is that guy? And I said to him, I go, Tommy, you don't know me from Adam. All us honkies look alike. I said, what you remember is getting the bird. You know? So he's laughing. The next day, I kibitz with him and got some photos together, and what a wonderful guy he is. I mean, everybody in show business I've met over the years are just the most beautiful people. I mean, I only had one bum, and that's, I had a video production company. I started in '79, videotaping ourselves to see how we looked on stage, make sure our impressions are good and stuff. So one comic hired me, and his act sucked, and he didn't pay me. But 16 years of videotaping weddings, parties, and everything, and it's on my Oscar and Bernie YouTube channel. I filmed Don Rickles down at the Golden Nugget. I wish I would have kept a copy of Phyllis Diller for the Toyota South Coast convention in Vegas. And I'm such a nut being from Cleveland. I videotaped Willie Mays and Mickey Mantle. They both asked me if I wanted their autographs. And I go, nah, I'm from Cleveland, you know. You guys hurt us too bad, you know. But I did get Carlin's autograph, George Burns' autograph, and Buddy Hackett's. Because actually, when we first got on...
Did you have an autograph book? Or
no, they're pictures. I saved pictures of them and had them framed, and I took them down to Antique Roadshow. They said $1,500 for the three of them, and that was some years ago. That's why I'm the president of the Las Vegas Comedy Museum and Hall of Fame, because awesome. the whole idea is that if my act's going to get in the museum, I better pay for it. So I set up the 501c3, and
that's great.
I don't know if this can be seen, but what our motto is comedy is the bedrock of free speech. And then I add yabba dabba doo. You know? And, so we're allowed to take in like 50,000 a year. And we've helped comics. I mean, guys get stuck in a phone bill or whatever, you know. One guy needed a radiator because his car broke down in the middle of Nellis Avenue, and went down there and helped people out, you know, and they pay it forward back to us, and, you know, we're there to help people. Now, I also got Chevy Chase's director's chair. Wow. One of my clients absconded with it off the set of Vegas Vacation with William Fraker's chair. Well, my buddy was a grip, and he was a big fan of William Fraker, the cinematographer. And me, being a comic, I'm seeing a Chevy Chase chair sitting out by his jacuzzi, and every year I'd do his taxes, and I'd bug him about it. Well, finally, after about 26 years ago, he gave it to me, and I brought it back to Vegas, and the funny thing was, I got on Pawn Stars. They had me all mic'd up, because Rick Harrison wanted the chair, and they were saying $3,000 for it, where Antique Roadshow said about $1,500. But he wanted a chair back. So I got all mic'd up. I break Bernie out of the box, and I go like that, and he goes, what are you doing? I go, well, I'm going to have Bernie out there with me. He goes, oh, you can't do that. You can't have the puppet. I go, look, I'm not taking a rap for having Chevy Chase's chair. The bird did it, not me, And they said, oh, no. So I took the mic off and walked out. And they were stunned. I'm probably the first person ever to walk out on Pawn Stars and say, see ya. But that's kind of my life. In life, we stand up on stage, and we just stand up in other places, too, if we see things that aren't right.
Yeah, you got to stand up for what you believe in. If
right.
Your act is you and the bird, and that's what you'd also do jokes by yourself, but at that moment, you wanted to do the bird, and they didn't agree?
I know, I was stunned that they did. But I'm glad they didn't buy it for me, because now it's in our museum.
Yeah, that's great.
And with the pictures and a bunch of other comedy stuff. I've collected Arby's great comedian glasses from back in the day, and the Pepsi back in, I think it was 75, had all the cartoon characters, Looney Tunes. So we got that over there. So it's an eclectic collection. A lot of comedy shirts. Back in the day, in the late 70s, at the Sahara Showcase, was one of the finest places to go. They had a three-piece band. Danny Gans started there, and it was so much fun. And what happened was, it was run by Sandy Hackett, Buddy's son. So now when the new Gong Show came out, like in '89, he asked me if I wanted to do the Gong Show, and I said, no, the bastard ripped me off before. I don't want to go on there. And he goes, no, I'll make sure you get on. So now I go down there, and they go, what do you want to do? I said, I want to get gonged. They go, what are you, crazy? Everybody comes down here, they want to be famous. I said, look, gong me 10 times, I will be famous. So they kept bringing us back, and we were gang gonged by Salt and Pepper, and then I did Roy Orbison on one show, and I lost to an Elvis impersonator. And they would tape 5 shows in one day. So I'm out there with the puppet, and the first show I did, I had a mustache. So now when I come back to do Roy Orbison, I had to shave off the mustache. I had a fake mustache. So now I do one show with the puppet, with the fake mustache and everything. Then I come out later, all dressed in black, looking like Roy Orbison, and I end up losing to an Elvis impersonator by 1 point. Now we're dancing around at the end of the show, and I look over at Jay Thomas, and I go, well, at least you didn't gong me this time. He goes, what? I go, I was the guy with the bird puppet out here earlier. And he goes, holy crap, I didn't know that. But it was a lot of fun. The Gong Show gave me my first union voucher. They paid $400. I got a rerun check for another $400. My daughter's got a bunch of Lee press-on nails and some cereal. And then my second voucher was doing Last Comic Standing. And that was crazy. On my Oscar and Bernie YouTube channel, I got the stuff up there. People wanted to take a look. But we went down there, and the first thing the bird says is, he goes, Last Comic Standing, what is this, another freebie benefit show we're doing? So right away, Adam Kindler, he's going, well, I don't know about, holding a cigar in front of your mouth while the puppet's talking, And I said, look, I'm not here to be judged by you three. I was in the Improv in LA. I go, I want to be here tomorrow night in front of a live audience. So they go, we don't think that's what you want. So I'm leaving, and the girl's out by the vestibule as you're walking out, and she said, would you get the puppet out? And I go, sure. I get the puppet out, and she goes, and they're taping all this, and she says to me, are you sorry they didn't pick you? Well, I jumped off the stage and threw my card down in front of the judges. They thought I was going to go ballistic on them or something, and there was some funny stuff. I said, if they don't know how to edit what I just did in there, I feel sorry for you guys. Yeah. So she goes, well, you could have had a shot. And I said, look, lady, my house is paid for. I don't care what you do, Well, the next night, the wife and I are watching the show. And the first show, it was really bad. It was like, oh, my gosh. I said to the wife, I go, I'm glad they didn't pick me. I don't want to be associated with this. Well, the next day they call me, and they say, when I want to use my stuff. So now they had to pay me $2,500. Wow. And that was my second voucher. And then they paid me another $25 when it ran into reruns. Nice. And this is a good time to mention, James Brewster Thompson with Soul Brother Ricky, he got on too. and maybe 4 or 5 other ventriloquists that were on the show. So we all got paid nicely from it, and it came out to be a pretty good thing. We're doing a show in Vegas called Guys with Dolls. We're producing that anyways, and we're hoping that we can find a venue, whether we got a 4-wallet or, whatever we got to do.
So what do you mean by 4-wallet?
Well, that means that you're putting up the money. You're renting a room.
Right.
So what I would do is come out and do stand-up, then break out Bernie, and then James gets up there. Now, he's in Guinness World Book of Records when he was a little younger, jumping rope with 3 people hanging on him. He's got 2 people here and somebody on his back, and he's jumping rope. I mean, the guy's a phenomenal athlete. He's been on Letterman. He's performed at the White House. He's done a lot of stuff. And with his ventriloquism, he's a real ventriloquist, where me, I'm an impressionist. And I always said other impressionists when I was doing my Ain't Brother act, what about a puppet? You ever thought of that? And he goes, nah, that's not what I'm doing, So then when my partner and I broke up, I'd already been writing for 2 people. I figured, I'm going to write for the puppet, and that's how that took off. About 1980.
Okay.
That's when that happened.
Started the puppet?
Yeah, is when we started doing that. And the funny thing of it is that Bernie's body is made of a PVC pipe, so if that goes in a toilet, you know why. Now, when I was a kid, I had a battery-operated parrot. My parents got me when I was a kid. That hung, from a thing in the bedroom, and his eyes would light up, and he'd squawk and stuff. Well, these talons, feet, were off of that.
Oh, nice.
Now, my mom, I go back to Ohio about 1980, and she says, I saved this for you. So I start ripping it apart. She goes, what are you doing? I go, Mom, I need these wings. I need these feet. And so that's how I put him together. And so, I mean, it's one thing kind of fell into another. We started videotaping our act in Las Vegas in 79. By 1983, we were making maybe $50,000 a year videotaping weddings and parties and stuff.
Nice.
And I started transferring people's home movies on the videotape. Taped a lot of people, and it was a lot of fun. It was a great experience, and one thing goes into another. And comics should look at it that way. I mean,
yeah, you never know what your path is going to be.
Exactly. If you got a sense of humor and you're creative, you might go into advertising or something like that, and still do your comedy on the side.
Oh, yeah. Like right now, I need to really get a day job because all these things aren't paying. Like the podcast isn't making money, which is fine. I'm doing it for give back to the community.
It's your creative juices.
Keep a record, because
yes.
I'm getting older.
Yes.
I'm not as old as you, but 54. I forget. I could even. That's why I have a spreadsheet of who's been on the podcast.
Right. Well, here's the thing I noticed.
Yeah.
From 50 to 70, that fast. And a mathematician told me once. She was a very bright lady. We dated for a while, and she says to me, I said, time's flying faster, it feels like. And she said, well, I got to tell you. She goes, when you're 10 years old, that's 1/10 of your life.
Yes, there's a video that explains this so
really?
Good. Everybody should look it up. But it's so good. They explain why it feels like time
speeds faster. I just put up the calendar last year.
What's that?
I just put up the calendar for last year. In December,
That's great. The other thing is that your perception of time actually depends on how fast you're moving. They've actually proven this. There was an experiment where they had people dropped onto a trampoline, right? Totally safe, right?
Excuse me.
No one feels like they're in danger,
right?
But they would flash really fast. You can't even see what it is. It's like a number or something, right? And then you look at it before you get dropped, and you couldn't see it. And then they would drop you, and you'd be falling, and then they would flash it right before you hit, and then they would ask them what the number was, and they'd it'd be 54. And it's like, what?
Wow.
And they're explaining because you're moving fast, and your perception time actually slows down just enough for you to be able to see it longer.
Catch it, right?
And then and then also other things that could be like adrenaline.
Right.
If you have more adrenaline, you're going to be more perceptive.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, because she told me when you're 60, that's 1/60th of your life, and that's a lot faster than 1/10.
Yeah, exactly.
And that made sense to me 30 years ago.
Absolutely.
So it's
you have so many stories. We could be here hours, but there's a few questions I want to get
okay,
through.
for sure.
Because I always ask everybody. So what is your writing process for comedy?
Well, that's a very good question. Over the years, something goofy might come to me, and I write it down. And I'll keep it. Maybe 3 years down the road, all of a sudden it fits into something.
Nice. So you set jokes aside sometimes.
Yeah, always writing, and always having, always doing rewrites. You know, I mean, it's like this. You know, this is 60 minutes of material, basically 30 minutes of stand-up and 30 minutes with the bird.
Wow.
And I learned from a fellow a memorization technique. I think all comics should really go do a couple plays. Community theater's free.
Yeah.
Learn how to use the stage and how to work with other people around you, because the simple fact is, what if you land a chance at a sitcom? Well, if you don't know exit stage left or right or upstage, downstage, you're going to be standing there looking like a goof. Where you can learn this stuff real easy in whatever little town you're in. And you might really enjoy it, and you might be really good at it, you know, and then all of a sudden that opens up another area for you too. So the memory...
Some people do improv, but you think the stage is even better. That makes a lot of sense, because then you're used to scripts and
you got to memorize.
Memorizing and...
Right.
Yeah.
And this memorization technique I learned from a guy, I think he might have been in the CIA, but it's 1 run, 2 zoo, 3 tree, 4 door, 5 hive, 6 sick, 7 heaven, 8 gate, 9 wine, 10 den. 1 run. What am I running for? Well, in my first page that goes along here, my first line would be circumcised. Because I do a bit about I'm a Jewish Indian and I was circumcised by a tomahawk, you know. So that's the key word in that part. Then the next one would be like U-Haul, because the thing is about my ex-wife drove up in the driveway with a big old U-Haul and said, aren't you going to help me? And I said, I don't see no we-haul on the side of that sucker. You haul it out of here, you know. So from one to the other. And like 1 run, what are you running for? 2 zoo, what are the monkeys playing with in the zoo? 3 tree, what's hanging from the tree? 4 door, I walk through the door, what do I see? So that's your key word on maybe, because I'm double spaced, it runs about a minute each page here. Okay. So that's how you hook it in your mind. Yeah. And I ended up doing 300 lines in Charlie's Aunt. I was Sir Francis Chesney in that. And one of the young guys in the dorm was dressed in drag, and I'm proposing to him, you know. But it was a fun old play that's been around a long time. Nice. And that's how, once I got past the first 10, it just starts coming naturally on what you got to do. And it's real good for kids too. My daughter was having a problem in school, and I taught her that. And it's basically just a lack of self-confidence. And once they learn those 10 things, they start to get confident, and away they run with it. You know?
Yeah, like I remember in junior college, like I had to take a speech class. It was like mandatory, and that really helped.
Oh,
like
sure.
The speech professor was like really understood that a lot of people have a problem with public speaking, and it's like if you know your material, then that's it, and you don't want to memorize it like word for word. Then you sound rote.
Right.
You know, even for comedy or for giving any kind of speech, you know, you want to know it well enough to where you don't have to look at your notes, and you say it in your own way, live.
And the audience is known as coming from your heart.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, exactly. And,
you know,
once you get over that and you realize that everybody, you know, like if you're talking to your friends and you're trying to explain the new bus schedule or whatever,
right?
Because you're or whatever it is, you know,
right?
Or you know how to use an iPhone or whatever, you know, you're gonna like you know it, so you just do it. And
right.
If you forget, you're talking in front, not just in front of your friends, you're talking in front of like 5 people, 10 people, 100 people.
Only 5% of the people can do public speaking.
Yeah.
Maybe 1% make any money at it.
Sure.
The other 4% are probably politicians. You know, but you know, it's important that you get up there and give it a shot. I mean, the old saying is that first get friends to laugh,
Yeah.
Then get strangers to laugh. Then get strangers to laugh for money.
Sure.
You know, and there's a website, I don't even know if they're active anymore, just killerstandup.com, that talked about getting at 4 to 6 laughs per minute and stuff. But I learned that, like I say, from Lou DuPont, and he'd work 3 puppets at once. He had a bigger male puppet. He put a little male puppet on there, on his lap, and the little male puppet would have a real deep voice, you know. And then he had a female puppet over here. Well, this is in the Rare and Bear burlesque show at the Royal Casino years ago in Vegas.
Okay.
And the little wooden puppet, she'd drop her top. Oh, it's funny, man. He was such a funny dude. And I got him, you know, they're all gone now. And I got him on my Oscar and Bernie YouTube channel also. Okay. You know. And this might be a moment to mention that I wrote this book for kids dealing with a hospital stay. It's called The Handicats. And the foreword is probably better than my dang book, because my ex-father-in-law, he wrote the book Taylor's Manual on Physical Therapy. He's up here in L.A., and we're going to go see him tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
And he's a wonderful guy. And I've donated more of these books than sold them. You know, children's hospitals, Shriners.
And people can find the book on your
on
website?
Amazon.
Oh, on Amazon?
Yeah,
Wow, that's
yeah,
great.
we're on Amazon.
Oh, yeah.
So, and the granddaughter, she did all the artwork in it, so that's pretty cool.
That's nice.
But, you know, you got creative juices. You keep writing, even if you're not sure if you're going to use the material this week or not, but you just keep putting it down. Because what happened to me, it took me a while to find my stage voice. And I was working with Brian Hoffman. We would go all over Ohio, work in VFWs and Elks Lodges he'd get us booked into. And I kind of figured out, and he forced me, he goes, look, you got all this stuff floating around. You wrote this, it's over there, it's over here. It's over. Sit down and put it all together.
Yeah,
you know,
organized.
Organize it. So that's what I did. And Brian now is in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. He used to do stand-up. I got him on my channel. But he does Red Skelton. And he does a tremendous show. Wow. I mean, just tremendous. And Red's, believe it's his wife or daughter, somebody in the family's endorsed him and been to shows and stuff. And he really does he looks like him. In fact, he looks so much. He was first dressing up as Grandpa Munster.
Okay.
Because he looked like Peter Doyle. So now, was that Peter Doyle? No, Al Lewis. Yeah, Al Lewis is Grandpa Munster. He does a joke about Peter Doyle. So he goes and meets Al Lewis, and Al looks at his picture and he goes, "You look more like Grandpa than me." You know? But,
yeah, that's kind of interesting because, you know, for a long time, famous bands and people would like write songs, and then you know, there's cover bands. But in comedy, it was really frowned upon. Do your own material, do your own material. But it seems like we're starting to like get to a point where, as a society or as an art form, maybe that's a good sign, you know, or maybe it's a bad sign. I don't know, depending on.
Hey, if they're filling the seats, you know what I mean?
Yes, you can't argue with the audience coming to see it, right?
And if they're coming to see a guy that could do Sam Kinison, I haven't seen anybody do it, but I mean, that'd be one heck of a thing. Because one of the things, like I say, the 4 to 6 laughs per minute, Larry Scarano, he's genius. He says, "Well, yeah, Oscar," he's out of New Jersey. "Yeah, Oscar, that's true if you're working technical." But he goes, "Sam would talk a minute and bring the house down." So there's that aspect of it too.
Yeah, it just depends on the style that you're doing.
Right.
You know, it's like harder to get 4 to 6 laughs per minute if you're telling. You're really trying to connect with the audience with a personal story.
Right.
Or whatever. So,
Right.
You know, not saying that I'm doing that. Like I'm the problem. I feel like one of the things I'm having problems with is I want to do so many things. You know, I'm doing like I do a heightened version of myself. My character is just a heightened version of myself. You know, but it's a lot of times it's hard to like tell personal stories because I don't feel like I'm getting the laughs per minute to that. You know, like that the couple in the front row.
Right.
I only got them to smile when I actually interacted with them.
Right.
You know
right.
what I mean? So
they might have had a huge fight before they walked in there because my wife even said
they did not expect comedy. They did not expect comedy. You know, sometimes you go to a brewery and you want a beer. You know, it's good beer there. Right?
Yeah, it is. It is.
So
I had one too.
And then all of a sudden, a comedy show appears out of nowhere.
Right.
So I get it. you know, and it's a little cold, you know, like there's tables outside, it's a little cold outside. We did good enough that they stayed for almost the whole thing. So
right.
I feel like we did our job.
Right. You know? Oh, there were some great people in there in the audience last night. There were some good laughers in there.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. Because on an open mic, you know, it's always tough, especially in a bar. The bar owners always expect you to bring the audience. Usually they don't want to spend any money to try to advertise.
Yeah, they're not spending any money.
You know,
basically, he'll basically give me a little money here and there.
Nice.
But
no, that's good. And I mean, you got a place, and I saw how hard you work at setting up the curtain and everything that you did, man. I mean, it was
I just
like
added the projector. To where we're putting their people's Instagram up there, or if people want to advertise their website or a YouTube or whatever, that's fine. It's just the Instagram is easy because like I have a spreadsheet where I can put their Instagram handle, and then I have a link, and I can just click on it, and it comes up real quick, so it's quick. And then all I got to do is like make sure I move the mouse around a few times.
It was impressive.
The screen doesn't go back to what it wants to, you know.
No, above the comics when they're up there, it's impressive seeing that stuff. Yeah. You know, it was really sharp. I was impressed. You know, I've seen some open mics. I did my Jesus joke once back in Ohio, and a guy yelled, "Get off the stage!" But it's such a funny joke because my buddy, he asked me, but I won't do that now here. But I've done it a few times, you know, and just because some people, I mean, I'm a God-fearing guy. When you get to my age, you know, my dad said to me, and he passed in '97 on April Fool's Day. Like I say, the greatest comic I ever knew, you know. Yeah. And he said to me, "Son, I don't know what's going to happen after I die. Maybe it'll be like before I was born. I didn't know anything."
Exactly.
I said, "Pops, this is what's going to happen. Your body's going to hit the ground," and that's what it did. And you're going to step back out and look at it. Now, this is a crucial moment. Are you going to curse God for the crap you left behind? Or are you going to praise the Lord you never have to crap again?
Yeah, that's good.
So that's the kind of stuff like I like doing on stage. I talk about it they say you can't talk religion and politics in a bar, but wasn't this country founded by a bunch of drunks in a pub? Sam Adams brought the beer, Washington brought the hemp, and Jefferson brought the girls, and we've been moving on up ever since. I mean, who don't like brown sugar, you know? So it's kind of goofy stuff, but I've learned too that telling stories is important.
Yeah.
An example is, I'm working Think Like a Man 2. Director says, action. I go walking out of Caesar's Palace, I start walking down the stairs, and he goes, cut. Well, I just see this short black man get out of a Lamborghini, so I think to myself, don't say nothing stupid to the guy, because he came over and sat down right next to me. And he looks up at me and he goes, hello, sir. I look at him. I had no idea who he was, because I don't watch other comics unless I'm working with them. Sure. Maybe now I can watch him a little more because I'm kind of set in my ways. But when I was younger, I never watched him. I watched a little Carlos Mencia, and I'm thinking, that guy stole half my act. You know? I mean, I don't know. And then you hear the guy just kind of, But so I say to him, you look like you might have done a little comedy in your time. And Kevin Hart starts laughing, looking at me like, you stupid old white guy. I can see the wheels turn. I said to him, I go, do you know Smiley Joe Wiley? He go, who's that? He goes, he's my comedy bud. I said, we ran together out of Cleveland. We came out here together, and I got to tell you, he's stuck out there in the Gulf of Mexico doing comedy on Triumph, the Carnival Cruise Line. If you remember when that happened. And Kevin starts laughing. He goes, oh, that poor son of a bitch. So now the director says reset. So we go back to our spots and everything. And in the trailer, about 2 minutes into the movie, I upstage Kevin Hart walking into Caesars. The only reason he left me there, I think, is because we had a little conversation and we laughed together. Yeah. You know? And I got different stories like that. I'm doing Las Vegas with De Niro and Michael Douglas and Kevin Kline and Mary Steenburgen. I think that's how you pronounce your name. Uh-huh. And we're in the airport scene. And I saw one person talk to Michael Douglas. I really wanted to talk to him, but you leave the stars alone, right? Sure. But I saw somebody talk to him, so I walked over to him and I go, Mr. Douglas, are you aware of the other Mr. Douglas? And he broke into Shakespeare and he goes, funny you would ask that. He goes, I'm checking into a hotel in New Zealand and he told me I was double booked. He goes, how could I be double booked? I'm the only Michael Douglas. Well, Michael Keaton's real name is Michael Douglas. And a lot of people didn't even know that. A girl I went to high school with, her husband, God rest his soul, Michael Weiss, he was one of his classmates. And she told me that. And then I met another guy in Ohio that went to Kent State and was good friends with him and told Michael Keaton, you got to get out of here. You're wasting your time here. Go to L.A. So they've stayed friends over the years. At least that's what John Peckman told me, and that he'd fly him out to Montana to his ranch from time to time because they were buddies. So, like I say, most of the people in show business are just so wonderful. Charo opened for George Burns that night I was there at Caesars. She jumped off the stage and she grabbed people, coochie. Well, she grabbed me. And I said, you my darling, you look absolutely marvelous, you know. And that just stunned her. She jumped back and looked at me like, who is this guy? You know. But that's the kind of thing. You know, they say, are you funny off stage, on stage? Well, when Murray Langston was younger, he was just constantly on when he was off stage. It's like, dude, you're going to have a heart attack. Calm down. You know, you enjoy life a little bit. Sure. Then I saw him years later when I let him know what happened with Rip Taylor and stuff, and he was very mellowed out. He wasn't quite as fired up as he was when he was younger. And you gotta pace yourself, you know. I mean, because so many comics have passed over the years that just, you know, they just party too hard, you know. Oh, yeah. You got to have a limitation, you know.
Yeah, I used to like consume a lot of sugar and caffeine and stuff, and now I'm like,
my buddy
no
that
caffeine, very little sugar.
Jimmy Still was so funny. He did the Tonight Show like when he was 19 years old. He bought a puppet. He named him Max, Jimmy Still and Max, that was built by the same guy that built the puppet for the movie Magic with Anne Margaret with the little demon puppet, you know. Wow. They look kind of similar, but Max wasn't as bad. But it had like an F-16 handle coming down through it with all these rings. His ears would move, his tongue would stick out, his eyebrows would move, his eyes are moving. I mean, it was really quite neat. And he paid $6,000 for it. So he gave me my first puppet head, which was an Axtel puppet. And then what I did is I put the feathers on him, the glasses. Oh, and his little thing broke again. I keep putting that on there. And the cigar popped out too. But yeah, over at Axtel Puppets, they got quite a collection of stuff that you can get a hold of. And Jimmy said to me, he goes, well, I'm not using the bird anymore. And I had the body built, but I didn't have a head. And goofy me, I got a parrot that was a toy, you know, like a kid's stuffed toy. I chopped the head off. I chopped a wiffle ball in half, glue it up in there to give it some kind of a head, you know, and it was really lacking. And Jimmy Still dialed me in, but God rest his soul, because he used to drink Jolt Cola and smoke cigarettes like a fiend, and he was 7 years younger than me. And in '99, I see Jeff Dunham's over at the Funny Farm in Youngstown, Ohio, so I go to talk to him, and I said to him, did you know Jimmy? I said, do you know Jimmy Still? And he goes, well, how well do you know him? I go, well, he's kind of down and out in Vegas. I put him up at my place, his wife and his kid, you know. Sure. And he said, I hate to tell you, man, but he died. It was like a shock to me. It was like, holy crap. I worked with Jimmy at the Tudor House at Lake Arrowhead and a bunch of places in Vegas and stuff, and videotaped the act, and I got him on their Oscar and Bernie channel. I got a lot of comics over there, people that I worked with over the years, and you can actually see how we progress. I mean, you can see how lousy I was when I first started. You know, my Ain't Brother act, the first time on stage, I'm dodging behind a curtain. Sandy Hackett's looking like, what are you doing? I'm looking through the notes, trying to find out where I'm at. My partner's on the stage going, where'd you go? You know, and that's how we started. But and they put us on late in the night, and we got better and got better, because you keep doing it, you're going to get better. Yeah. And we got to where we were opening the show and stuff, and that's how Buddy Hackett invited us to his show. We were backstage with him to his son Sandy, and Buddy asked me where I'm from, and I go, my mom. He goes, what? You know, I go, and she was in Cleveland at the time. Cleveland! Oh, you hated Cleveland. Just hated Cleveland. Well, I found out from a podiatrist back in Cleveland that was a friend with Buddy as a kid. I mean, how odd the way you meet things and get stories are just nuts, right? And this podiatrist tells me, he goes, when we were kids, we were walking along this fence. It was like a rock fence. And Buddy is on the top, and he fell in the yard, and old man Modell came out screaming at him. Art Modell, who owned the Cleveland Browns, it was his dad yelling at little Buddy Hackett. And from all those years, Buddy hated Cleveland because the Modells went there. And after Modell went to Baltimore with the football team, I wanted to bump into him and ask him, now how do you feel about Cleveland, you know? A lot of different things like that. I mean, the show business has just been amazing. The people
So
you
what's
meet.
the biggest audience you perform for live?
Wow, there's 5,000 people at the Riviera for Johnny J. And then Johnny J got me up in front of the Shriners Jesters. Now, in Vegas, these guys were, they've heard everything. And after I got off stage, Johnny told me, he goes, they've run comics out of here. He goes, you stunned them so bad, they couldn't stop talking about the puppet. Because this was right after the Michael Richards thing. And I said, Bernie, you got to watch what you say, because Michael Richards got in a lot of trouble. And, you know, the Shriners here, it's not like
So
they're
what
letting...
happened with Michael Richards?
Yeah, from Kramer. You know, remember when he dropped N-bombs on black people in his audience? I mean, what the frick? See, a lot of these guys that haven't done comedy before, like Radar and McLean Stevens, they came to Vegas and they didn't last a week. Sherman Hemsley, too. He didn't last a week. But Freddie Prinze Sr., I saw him open for Shirley MacLaine New Year's Eve at Caesars when he was 21 and I was 21. I mean, just amazing. I was in awe of him. But he started on stage. So for him to get famous on TV and come back to the stage, he knew what he was doing, you know. So these guys came to town, and they didn't last very long. And so I said, Bernie, the Shriners don't allow any Jews or blacks in here, and you better watch what you say. And the puppet comes back and said, can you believe what that K said about those N's? And the place went nuts. I go, you can't talk like that. There's brothers and sisters working in here. They all looked up, you know. And I said, they're going to cook your goose. Well, I don't taste like chicken. You know? So, I mean, that's the only time I ever dropped them. And we're on stage like that, but it laid them guys out. They didn't know what to do. And then I got off stage, and a guy that owns a big dealership in a casino in town comes up to me and goes, let me buy you a drink. I couldn't believe the way you laid them guys out. They were stunned after that. You know? So yeah, I guess you got to kind of know your audience in that respect. You know, it's for me, it was I wanted to wake them all up. And it was right at the time that went down, you know. And it just, I wouldn't do that now because it's not topical, you know. But it was pretty freaking funny.
Wow, that's amazing. So, who's the funniest person in your life right now?
Wow. Huh. Who do I like? Well, Kevin Hart, because I watched him after being in a movie with him. You know, I was pretty impressed with him.
But basically, like, you know, in your life, like you could, you see a lot.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Disgruntled clown.
Okay.
God bless him. Hopefully he's being healthy. I did a TV show with him a year ago, summer. When I was back in Ohio, I ran up and saw him in Michigan. He's like Sam Kinison in a clown suit.
Okay.
The guy is so funny.
Yeah.
And I worked with Russ Nagel. He's a funny guy. Russ really knew how to sell his merchandise. He would make as much money selling his merchandise in a week than he was getting paid from the comedy club.
Oh, I'd love to know how to do that because I'm trying to do my own merch. This is my.
I know, and I grabbed one of your shot glasses.
Oh, nice.
Last night.
I didn't do that joke, but yeah, if I do glasses again, I'm not going to put a joke on it because it's like, that's why I'm starting to just give them away because like I don't always do that joke. You know, it says, you know, vitamin D on it.
Right. Well, I got a collection of different people's shot glasses. The clown's one. Yours will be sitting next to that.
I was trying to get people in San Diego to do shot glasses with like, you know, with their logo or whatever on it, and then have like a San Diego, you know, shot glass collection, you know, but nobody ask. This is one reason I ask people, do you have merch? Because I'm trying to get, especially to people to like in San Diego, to like, people think that you need to do merch when you're big. It's like, well, you got to start early, because if you do merch when now you don't have time because you're doing so well, someone is going to cut you a deal and they're going to get most of the money.
There you go. What I mean? Like, there you go. And if you work in comedy clubs, most of them, when you would work like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 2 shows Friday, 2 Saturday. Some places they'll do a Sunday show, some don't. But Russ would stand there by the door. You couldn't get by out the door without going by him and his T-shirts and stuff.
That's great.
You know, Professor Milo.
So do you have any merch right now?
I had some T-shirts and stuff with the bird on it. Well, you get the bird. You got the bird with our website underneath it.
So can people buy that right now online? Or?
Yeah, they haven't really moved too much of that stuff. It's it's the headliners that usually do it.
Oh,
as a feature act, some will let you sell stuff, some won't. You know, it kind of depends on the person you're dealing with. But it's, it's important to do. I mean, that's part of the grind, go make the money. Because like I say, I saw him, and as an accountant, I know these guys now on cruise lines, usually they can't sell anything. Maybe a DVD, they'll let them do that. But the clients I got working cruise lines, they're making 100 to 130, 140,000 a year. And they're doing 35 minutes a night, maybe 40 minutes, A lot of places, like in the casinos, they only want an hour comedy show. Whereas a comedy club like the Funny Stop back in Ohio, or Crackpots in Massillon, Funny Stop in Cuyahoga Falls, that was my home club. This last summer I worked Crackpots. They'll do an hour and a half show. And it's usually like the opening act, also MCs. You might do 10 minutes up front. The feature act will do like 25 minutes, and then the headliner goes for an hour.
Yeah.
And boy, the clown was so funny. He'd ride in on a little motorcycle, and if somebody heckled him, he'd cover him with a leaf blower and a roll of toilet paper in like 20 seconds, and he'd bait somebody into doing that, to heckle him. So it's a lot of fun.
That's cool.
And the other guy that was really good, Professor Milo, James Lee Reeves, worked with him a few times. I featured for Tom Green in Las Vegas at Bally's Back Room.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. In fact, they did a shrunken head of him over at the Golden Tiki over there on Spring Mountain Road. And I got invited over there. We had drinks with him and stuff, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Some of these questions are hard to apply to everybody, but I'll still just ask them.
No, sure.
Do you wish you started comedy earlier?
Now, here's a funny thing. I do on stage, are comics born or are we made? Mm-hmm. And I say to the audience, I want everybody to close your eyes. I want you to think back to the first thing you saw or heard, felt or smelt that made you realize that there's more to life than just sleeping titties. So, and I tell them, when you close your eyes, I'm not a pickpocket. And I say to them, I go, for me, I was a swaddled baby. And this is my first conscious thought, without even knowing what the hell I was thinking. My dad sold Smithfield food products to drive-in movie theaters, and they heat that stuff up and throw it on buns and sell it to people. So my parents are driving into this drive-in movie theater. I'm a swaddled baby, and I see the movie screen.
Wow.
Just this big lit-up movie screen. Nothing was on it, just all white lit up. It was like, whoa, and I never forgot it. And like I say on stage, and I've been looking for the bright lights ever since.
Sure.
And when I got to be a toddler, the parents said, well, we think you might be a comic someday, because they'd open up the refrigerator door, the light would come on, I'd do a couple minutes. Usually it's like, hey, boo-boo, there's no picnic basket,
Right.
So as a curious kid, because I'm goofy, in fact, my dad would look at me like, what are you, nuts? One time at the dinner table, I had a glass in my hand, and I bit a chunk out of it. I wanted to know how hard glass was. I'm lucky I didn't tear up my mouth or something. Just a goofy kid. Another time I took
did your parents ever see you do comedy?
Yeah. And another time I stuck a knife in the switch and it turned out black. I ran to my mom. So now what I do is I take everything out of the refrigerator. I really did this. And I climbed in and I shut the door on myself.
Wow.
Needless to say, the light goes out, so does the oxygen pretty quick. And Mom opens up the door and she's freaked out because she walks in the kitchen and sees all this stuff and doesn't see me. Yeah. And starts crying, drops her knees and says, "Oh, my son, I can't believe you did such a thing. And if it wasn't for the milkman, you wouldn't be here today." Wow. Well, I didn't know, that's the punchline. I didn't know what she meant until we moved about 10 miles down the road. Heck, we had the same milkman, But going back to your question, which was,
let's see.
You just asked me.
Let's see. She started comedy earlier.
I'm having a brain fart. Oh, so it kind of started early for me that way. So now I'm a little older, maybe 10, and the parents are backing down the driveway. When I got more time, I do this stuff on stage. And I said to I go, "Mom and Dad, if Dad's best friend is a dog, what's the woman's best friend? The dog's wallet?" When they hit the brakes, they stopped, they turned around and looked at me. I realized I'm getting attention. Now I'm a little older, maybe 13, 14, we go to Chicago. My cousins take me to see Green Beret. Never paid $4 to see a movie in my life. Big Oak Brook movie theater. They got a big balcony up above and everything. Well, in the movie Green Beret with John Wayne, there's one sergeant that's talking about how we got to stop communism and we got to nail our butts and everything else. And after he does this little speech in the movie, the whole place erupts and clapped her. Well, me as a goofy kid, I thought, well, that's kind of weird, clapping for the movie. So right when the clapping started dying down, I yelled out, "Let's hear it for the movie!" And my cousins start laughing, hitting me, they're older than me. They're going, "That's funny, kid." So I kind of found out at a young age, that you get some attention if you can make people laugh.
Yeah.
And there's...
So did you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, 4 younger sisters, and the crazy thing is my dad put me on the road when I was 16 selling paint and building supply products. By the time I moved to Vegas at almost 20 years old, I logged over 250,000 miles. I had logbooks. I had to keep track of my mileage for tax purposes and everything. One Friday, the old man tells me, "You got to take these paintbrushes to Saginaw, Michigan, from Cleveland, and turn around and drive home." "Okay, Dad." I go, "But you know what? It took Simon and Garfunkel 3 days to hitchhike from there." What are you talking about, kid? But my old man was so funny. He has such a great sense of humor that around the dinner table, it's kind of like you're picking it up, you get the punchline, the laugh. And my mom, she would put on Beanie Hines' Party Line. She's 97 now. This was back in like the late 60s, 70s, and she'd go around to women's groups teaching them how to cook up hors d'oeuvres and stuff. So Mom couldn't cook a meal very much, but boy, her hors d'oeuvres and stuff were the best. So she was doing that. Yeah, and so I saw that from that standpoint. I saw what Mom was doing, and then she even, right up to the last year or so, would MC a group called the Raising Canes, to these senior citizens out of Parma, Ohio, that would go around and put on dance exhibitions and stuff for people. And she would MC it. So she'd ask me, "Hey, you got a couple of jokes?" I go, "Well, I got a couple clean ones you could do, "Well, we're going to be doing one at a Catholic church." "Well, you find 4 Irishmen, there's sure to be a 5th, "What's the difference between an Irish funeral and an Irish wedding? One less drunk," stuff like that. Stuff that Mom could do. But, it's just the way it's been. Even in high school, my buddies... few of them come out to Vegas a few years ago, and one was telling me, "Man, I'll never forget, man." He goes, "It was so funny. We sat down at the lunch table. Well, somebody left a dirty tray there, the stuff. Well, the lunchroom lady, we all just sat down. She goes, "Hey, get this tray out of here." "Well, it's not ours. We didn't do it." "I don't care. Who did it? I want to see it disappear." Well, like a nut, I jump up at the table and go, "Poof, you to the office." Now I go walking in the office, our vice principal, he was a big dude. He had worked the docks in Cleveland, but he talked just like Liberace. Yeah. "Oh, golly, the following students, please report to the principal's office," So now I come walking up behind him, and he's noticing. He turns around and he's kind of startled. And he goes, "Oh golly, what are you doing here?" I said, "I don't know. I was in the lunchroom where poof. Next thing I know, I'm here." And he goes, "Well, I'll go talk to him and go to your next class." Well, another time I got paddled because it was a squirt gun thing going on in the school. Well, one guy squirted me with a squirt gun. So I grabbed it from him. I took it from him, I squirted him back. Well, now I'm the guy getting caught squirting a dude, right? Yeah. So now the same lunchroom lady, she got an eye out for me. Right. she says, "Go to the office." Well, the bus had just pulled up. I went out the door. I didn't go to the office. Yeah. So now they call my mom and say, "Is it okay if we paddle him?" And she goes, "Well, if that's what you think." Well, thanks, Mom. So now I go in there, and the dean of the women, she's sitting there. The next day. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So now the dean.
Vindictive, it's over.
I know. Yeah. So now the next day, the vice principal for the girls, and she looked pretty, little butch, I says. And she's sitting there smiling. Well, I'm leaning over the table to get my ass smacked. I think she's enjoying this. And the Liberace guy's getting ready to smack me on the ass. So he smacked me a couple times. Now I go to my next class, science class. The science teacher's a young guy. He might be teaching for 2-3 years. So he's only maybe 23, 24. Sure. And when you're 17, 18 years old, you don't realize how close in age these people are to you until you get out of high school and start living a little bit. You go, holy crap, my roommate's older than you were, I mean, really, So now I go into class. He has no idea what happened. He pulls out a squirt gun and squirts me. Because when I get ready to leave the office, they say, "If you see any more squirt guns, you better come back here and tell us about it." I go, "I'll tell you what, I'm going to shove it down their throat, and you won't even know where it went." He's going like, I played football. I had a little attitude anyways, like Al Bundy would say, I played high school football. So now, the teacher pulls out and squirts me. So I say, perfect comedic timing, I go, "Hey, I just got paddled for a squirt gun. Mr. Schminky," this is a guy's name who talked like Liberace. What a name. Schminky. Hey, Mr. Schminky. So now I said, "They told me if I see any more squirt guns, I got to go report it right now." I got up from my desk and started to walk towards the door. He had a look on his face of total terror. Oh, my. I should have got him paddled. So now, I think about 3-4 steps. I stop, I turn around, I go, "I got you." And the whole class cracks up laughing. Now, another time in science class, something goofed up. I had the gas and it would cook the whatever, the glass stuff and everything. Yeah. So somebody screwed something up and all of a sudden we got this fire going on. Oh, and everybody's freaking out. "Oh!" And I yell from the back of the room, "Just piss on it." Now everybody starts laughing, and then they got calm, and then we took care of it. I mean, comedy tends to do that. I mean, you slap them upside the face and we get real.
Wake up, people.
No, that was pretty funny. So I was always known as a class clown. So now after graduation, the 10-year reunion, we got to get Oski over there. He'll be the MC. Nice. So I MC'd like 10, 15, 20, 25. Wow. Now, our principal, and I didn't even notice, graduated from my high school. So now, the 25-year reunion, they would share with the people from the 50-year reunion. I'm MCing this thing. His name was Bud Wisniewski. So the pep band made up a song. When you say Bud, you're speaking of the principal of Brecksville High. When you say Bud, you're speaking of the man who would never cheat or ever lie. There's been no other one. He's been so much fun. He's such a fool. But hey, it's only school. When you say Bud Wisniewski, you said enough. So now...
So who made that song?
Yeah, the kids in school did.
The kids at school made that song?
Yeah, and the pep band plays it now at a rally, right? So now he's all pissed off. And it all started with, this was during the time of Nixon now. So now...
So in your comedy
yeah.
journey, you're saying you MC'd your 10th high school reunion, you're 20, you're 25.
Yeah, I
When
think the
did
15 too, yeah.
Or 15, sorry.
Those are big credits, people.
So, when did you start saying that you're a comic and doing open mics and stuff like that?
Wow. Well, the first time on stage was 1976, April. About 2 months before I got married.
2 months before you got married, and how old were you?
I would have been 22.
22. So
22.
Even before your 10-year anniversary.
Oh, yeah, before the reunion, yeah. Yeah, I started that. And then I did just by myself. And then I met this guy at Metropolitan Life, James Ernest Blocky. So we went on stage as Oscar and Ernie, because my name's John Oscar Hine. And I figured, there's a lot of funny Johns out there, but people remember Oscar more than John. And once I got into high school, there was some other Johns. It's like the elementary schools got together, and then we went to junior high. So then we had some. Yeah. So I started telling people, call me Oscar. You know, it was my grandfather's name. I always kind of liked it.
Nice.
He did pretty well, and I had some leather case that had his name like embroidered on it and stuff like that. I like carrying the school. So they just call me Oscar. So when it comes to
when Sesame Street, Oscar the Grouch came out.
Yeah, and then that
you're like, that's my name.
I had a button on Bernie that said, "Bite me, Elmo." Now, I'm at the Harrisburg rally, the Secret Service. I'm walking in with the puppet, and they start going, whoa, wait a minute. I mean, after the Butler shooting, they're kind of freaking out. Well, somebody, I don't know what happened to Button, but it disappeared that day. That's a bummer. So I've been looking for another one, so I got a Cleveland Browns button on there. But after writing for Oscar and Ernie, and I met him at Metropolitan Life. So he did impressions. He won a talent show for the Air Force. The guy's really talented. Yeah. So it was like, hey, I do impressions, and we started. I still see the guy. I do his taxes now, after all these years, And we did the act, the Ain't Brothers, because we ain't related, And then he grabbed my face, hey, you want to be related to this guy? Look what he looks like. And like I say, we did the joke with the unknown comic, the Polish unknown comic, a bunch of crazy stuff. And I actually got that on our Oscar and Bernie YouTube channel, too.
Nice.
People can see that stuff from way back. And Sandy Hackett, like in 1979, bringing us on stage. We did another show with Don Dino, a singer that's pretty well known in Vegas and Branson. Excuse me. So now, after he and I split up, because he went on to get a master's degree in math, and me, I was just still a nut, and I wanted to keep doing comedy. So that's when I put the Bird together. And in 1979, I walked into the Old Treasury Casino, and I said, look, I'm crazy. Put me on your big six-wheel over there. I'll make you more money than anybody ever has. Get out of here, kid, get out of here. Well, my wife was working as a hostess in there, and so I had to go there every day to pick her up. Anyway, this guy kept bugging him. He go, all right, listen, you got to take these chips and go home and learn how to cut the chips. You know how to cut the chips? I go, I don't even know how to cut the cheese. I don't know what you're talking about. So you got to learn how to make $5 piles, $10 piles, doing it.
Know it, so you don't short anybody or short the casino.
Right, and make sure you know what you're doing. Yeah. I got so freaking good at that, Aaron. They had me keep track of my drop. In other words, the money coming in off the table going in there, keep how much money's dropping in there. I'm dropping $1,000 a day in this little casino, and they're paying the bosses $100 a day back then in 1980. Minimum wage was like $3 an hour. They were paying me $5 an hour, and they gave me a full cut of the tokes. Now, when I first started working with the dealers,
full cut of the tokes?
Of the tips, yeah.
So, the tips, okay.
Because on the big six, well, nobody tip you. I'm taking their money from them, I'm cleaning them out. So, so after working with them about a month, they got me making the tokes up and go, hey, give the kid a couple extra bucks for doing the tokes and stuff. Because I'm having people laughing and stuff. And the casino was so cool, they let me wear Richard Nixon mask on the game. I'm wearing like a horn hat, doing Devil Made Me Do It as Geraldine, grabbing the wheel and spinning myself on it. Oh no, Mr. Bill, stuff like that.
So at that time, was Nixon the president?
No, this was 1980.
Oh, okay, sorry.
This was 80. So
you're jumping around in time so much I can't keep up.
Yeah, I know. It's very crazy. And it was so much fun. It was the most fun job I really ever had. It was, getting paid to make people laugh when they're coming through the casino. Now, here's a neat little story. The guys behind me in the lounge, Steve Altman and Steve Briggs. Steve Briggs' nephew, Stephen Briggs, he was just on Byron Allen's show. Sure. He's worked Dubai. This kid's doing great things in comedy, and I worked with him at Rick's Rollin' Barbecue this last Wednesday up in Vegas.
Oh, nice.
I'm so happy to see this kid do what he does. When he first came to Vegas, I saw his name, Stephen Briggs. You related to Stephen Briggs? That's my uncle. They named me after him. Well, I ended up doing their taxes back in '80, right? They sold a song to Jose Feliciano when he first went on Motown. He was the first non-black to do a Motown, and they sold the song. As I recall, it was like $5,000 and like a 6% royalty or something like that. I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, creative people, we make money out of thin air. And all kids have an inner childhood dream to pursue, you know? So it's important to encourage our kids to use their brain and be creative.
Yeah, they got to teach kids how to think critically and to learn. You have to learn how to learn. It's crazy.
Exactly. And too many of them want you to be a robot. Because if you're going to go out there and you're going to do this, you're going to do that, put that in line, da, 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 da. But like I say, it's the creative people that make the money. My dad used to say to me that salesmen are the highest paid people in the world. So I became a licensed insurance agent. That's why I met Blocky. And did that for about 10 years. And I realized, what's a better product you can sell than yourself?
Sure.
You know? And then I ended up doing 2 movies with Russell Brand, and got to talk with him a bit too. And I think I might have red-pilled him. Because, see, a lot of times you don't want to go off on politics, but I'm an old guy. I've been around the block. Sure. I worked the 2020 election, and I caught Dominion employees from California illegally wearing our shirts in Clark County. And I reported it, and I got fired. So I let the sheriff know. He won governor, and I got rehired. So, I mean, I voted for Bill Clinton. It's not like I'm a neocon, you know what I mean? But I know from reading a book called The 3 Keys by Mark Hamilton that creative people like Elon Musk, Trump, people that do 10 things at once, they're very big on time management. Mm-hmm. And they know how to make money out of thin air. And it's really not that hard if you try. But most people are afraid to try because they don't want to get out of their comfort zone. You know, and I've seen some other crazy stuff. When I first got to Vegas, my roommate, Henry Daniel Dawson Jr., if you want to Google him, God bless him, and God rest his soul. He died on Nevada death row. But when I lived with him, we got thrown out of a club on the strip because he was dancing with white girls. And I go around the corner, and the cops grab me, and I get a DUI. Well, it was 3 days before the Democrats shot for Ralph Lamb's re-election. They busted 73 hookers on the strip, and I saw cops raping hookers at the police station. Honest to God. And I've had people say, why didn't you report that? I go, I'm 20 years old. You think I want to end up in a desert with a yucca tree up my butt? Forget about it. Sure. But I mean, I've seen a lot of crazy stuff. So, I mean, some people say through my social media that, you know, he's this or he's that or whatever. But it's like, man, I've seen the stuff. And my great-great-granddaddy, he fought in the Ohio Regiment of the Civil War. His granddaughter, my grandmother, and I shared December 2nd as a birthday with my half-black grandson that I'm driving up to go see in the Bay Area here in the next couple of days. So we've been Republicans ever since. I mean, you know, I know Nixon screwed up, but right after Nixon, Watergate was Koreagate. And they busted 11 Democrats and 1 Republican from getting bought off by the South Koreans. So, and I've had CIA clients. I've had clients in the Pentagon. And I got a challenge coin from James E. Parker Jr., who wrote the book, The War in Vietnam, its own self, because I heard about a particular Senate Majority Leader from Nevada's bribes. So I went down and had a talk with Donna Fitzsimmons at the Mob Museum, and a few days later, Harry decided it was better he retire, which was good for him anyways, because it was the last few years of his life he got to spend with his family, and a good friend of mine, God rest his soul, Dana Osborne, would sit next to him in church. And they would talk together. And Harry and I celebrate December 2nd with Britney Spears. So that's enough on the political stuff. But
sure.
I mean, if anybody looks in the background, that's
so. What's the worst thing about comedy right now?
Huh. Well, I'll tell you what. I did an open mic at one place in Vegas, and the MC was all about himself. He didn't ask anybody if they had any credits. He says to me, look, I'm going to bring you up next because I don't see so-and-so in the room. Okay, all right, fine. And if so-and-so shows up, tell him you go after me, right? Mm-hmm. So I know I'm going up next, so I get up by the stage, little stage, and you know how he put his perch on the mic stand. So he starts saying, "Is so and so in here? Is so and so in here?" It's like, dude, I'm standing this close to you, and you're gonna start saying that? Yeah. Everybody's waiting to see what the hell I'm gonna do, And I thought that was really rude on his part. So I put the perch on his stand. He looks at me, "Get off my stage." So I put the perch back down on the ground, and 10 seconds later he's introducing me. I put the perch back on there. Right. But it's like, I don't know. I mean, it's like, show some courtesy to the people that take their time to come down to see you. It was the first time I was ever there,
Sure. Yeah, you don't want to come back.
Yeah, I suppose comedy, I don't know. I think comedy's in a real good place right now. I think, to be honest with you, 4 years ago, there's a lot of things you couldn't say. Everything was politically incorrect, and it's like, we offend people. Excuse me, but it makes you think about it, Some things might be offensive to somebody. It's all kind of subjective on what you like to laugh at, And if you don't like laughing, then just be quiet and wait till your turn or whatever,
Yeah, exactly.
Or get up on stage.
Unless it's the headliner, then you can always just leave.
Yeah. Now this is something really important.
Right?
It's good you asked this, because when I worked back in Ohio, they let a comic get up and do a feature spot, and that person was gross, talking about poop with the S word and corn, and it's like, if you got a guest spot, I'm getting paid to be the feature. There's a headliner there. You better ask the headliner what's appropriate and what isn't appropriate. Because if he's not dropping F-bombs and you get up there and you start dropping F-bombs all over the place, that's not right. That's totally wrong. And that particular person, I don't know where they're going with their comedy career, but I mean, it was just disgustingly gross. And they're thinking, oh, that's all funny, funny, funny. Well, if it is funny, 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 you do it when you're a headliner and you're getting paid. You don't come in.
Well, I mean, the people running the show should really know how to put up a lineup together. There's just some comics you probably wouldn't put together.
Right.
Right. And the order is very important too.
Exactly.
I totally understand what you're saying, but
right.
I'm not that far into comedy, but it feels like at this point in comedy's evolution,
right.
I feel like that's the job of the people making the lineup and.
Right.
I mean, so
if you're going to give a guest set to somebody, but see, the disgruntled clown was real adamant about that. He goes, "Can't do this, can't do that." He's a Southern boy, talks with a deep voice like that. And it's funny because nobody knows what he looks like when he's off stage because he's dressed like a big, huge clown. We're in the drugstore and he's going, "Hey, Oscar, blah, 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 blah." And I hear somebody on the other side of the room, "Hey, the clown's in here." And they was just so overjoyed to meet him and see John Raynor is his name, to see him without the clown makeup on everything. But the clown, he is so helpful to my act and other comics. We all help each other. A guy by the name of Mike Malik, God knows where he is anymore today.
So that's the Las Vegas comedy scene.
Well, the clown I'd worked back in Ohio with, Mike Malik was in Ohio. Malik was just brilliant. I got him on my Oscar and Bernie YouTube channel. He'd take my act and punch things up. Say something nice. Something nice like stroke my wiener. What? That Coke makes you leaner. Stuff like that. He's helped me punch things up like that.
Nice.
And they say you're neurotic if you give an unsolicited opinion. But I see guys come off a stage, and at times I said, "Hey, do you think of this?" "Oh, that MC that I was saying it was a jerk." He did about being Jewish, and his lady that he was with, her dog cock-blocked him. So I said to him afterwards, I said, before he brought me up, I walked over him, I said, "Well, was it a German Shepherd?" And he laughed, But I don't know, because the first time I met him, maybe he took offense to that. Because, if you talk to a shrink, they say if you're going around giving people unsolicited opinions, you're definitely mentally ill. But, here I am, But that's, and I've had guys come up to me and say things. Like I had one guy come up to me, an audience person, he says, Hey, have you ever heard of chicken on PMS? I go, no, what's that? He goes, buck, buck, buck off. You know, I mean, and that's how my act has come about from different things like that. People have told me stuff I remember. I go, wow, I write it down. I'm going to use that. And as long as it's not somebody else's bet, you know what I mean? But then after JTO, James Thomas Organ, and Baby Duck, he won Star Search. I did the Gong Show with him.
Yeah.
Great guy. God rest his soul. He, after he died, Sandy Hackett gave me his videotape and said, glean everything off of here you can and keep his act alive. Oh, wow. So I've done some stuff that he did, and I get laughs with it. The guy's been gone for years. I mean, you know, to me, it's like you want him to live on. I mean, he was such a good guy. He was telling me, you know, you got to do this, you got to do that. And he was older than me, and so it's.
So what's the worst advice you got?
The worst advice? Wow.
That maybe you took at first and then you realized it was bad.
Huh. I don't know. You know, it's always like I've been able to have fun with comics off stage. I've had people say, you're funnier off stage than on stage. You know? I mean, I can understand that. This stuff just happened to me. I was talking to some people in Ohio, and they were telling me how their daughter wrote for Saturday Night Live. And I'm going, I don't know, just crazy things happen to me, and boom, and people laugh. And when I went like that, somebody walked by and they slapped them right in the head. I didn't know they were there, you know. And they all start laughing, and I go, boy, I guess we see what you mean, you know, that kind of thing. I find that when we get together, it's a real good fraternity, you know. When Jazelka came out to Vegas for the World Series of Comedy 2 years ago, he got second place. And like I say, he was one of Sam's original outlaws of comedy. And, boy, we just have fun and everything. And I got him booked in a little Jay Gambino show that runs every Thursday night up on West Sahara at a place called the Chill Bar. I mean, there's singers, entertainers, comics. Singers that bring a tear to your eye. Katie Jensen sang opera. I mean, traveled the world. I mean, just phenomenal. Well, he put up a flyer. So I got Mike's picture, and I sent it to Jay, and he put it on a flyer. He goes, dude, how nice is that? I come to Vegas, and you got me on a flyer, you know? So, you know, we try to help each other. And then I go back to Ohio, and he juiced me in with Chris over there at Crackpots, you know, letting them know, hey, you know, let Oski get up and do some time. So I do an open mic, and I got booked, you know, to work there with Ira Summer, who Ira's out of Oakland area. Okay. Now, the only problem I really had with it was that they had too many people in front. So I'm supposed to be doing like 20 minutes. How's a headliner going to be doing 20 minutes? He comes all the way from Oakland, you know what I mean? So I cut my stuff short for he could at least do a half an hour. There's all these other people up front. You know, that could be run a little tighter in that respect, but, you know, it is what it is, and it was a lot of fun and great fun. There's a chocolatier there that she made me a bird with a rooster with a big old schlong on him, you know, out of chocolate, sitting in the refrigerator. It's pretty funny. I should give a shout out to Linda Highbeam, really good people back there, and Chris Kelter. But if you're a comic, you know,
you're doing comedy right now in Las Vegas, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Usually Skippy Sprinkles. Okay. Friend him. Have you ever heard of him? He's got like 6,000 followers. He runs down to L.A. and performs. Nice. He's known as like traumatic brain injury comic. He got hit by a drunk driver when he was a kid. He was like 45 days in a coma.
Oh no. So are you? Are you doing comedy every night, or are you doing?
I try to get up. Lately, I've been trying to get up 4 or 5 times a week.
Nice.
You know, the Dirty at 12:30 had me up there like a year ago. I had people when I got off stage walk up and tell Gabe Lopez, "You got to put this guy in the main room." So I don't know. Some people look at a guy with a puppet. Mitzi didn't care for puppets, but Pauly Shore, he liked me, invited me to the Natural Born Comics movie premiere at the Tao. So Bernie and I went right into his dinner. He had all his entourage inside this private room. Where's Pauly? Where's Pauly? Pauly want to see Bernie. I got a cracker for you. So I go in there and I just started busting her balls. I just opened the door and walk in. They're like, holy shit, who is this guy? You know? And then Paulie got a picture with me over there when they showed the movie in the like a bigger room and everything. Sure. So
you have such great stories, but trying to like root it a little bit in like, to connect it to San Diego. So we have the Comedy Store La Jolla, which Paulie.
Argus Hamilton's there a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of.
He gonged me on the Gong Show.
Oh, okay. But do you ever perform there or in
No.
LA or?
No.
Okay,
I performed at the Improv for the last comic standing.
That's where they did it?
The Comedy Store in LA. Me and my Ape brother performed down there, but we wore tuxedos. So he would do this one bit. I would say, hey, we went to New York City. And Ernie went to get on the Staten Island ferry. Well, he jumped Truman Capote. And he comes out, I'm Truman Capote. I wrote this poem that goes like this. When I've had too much to drink and I'm acting like a klutz, it's because I'm drinking Billy's beer and eating Jimmy's nuts. Place cracks up. This guy starts hitting this old lady and says, don't laugh at that. They're right in front of us. I'm thinking, what the frick? These people are driving Beamers, wearing blue jeans and T-shirts, and they're above this. That's why I've done really well in black audiences. I love getting in front of black people. They don't hold back, man. If they're funny, man, they laugh. They don't have any problem holding back. These people, and there was a night Ed Begley comes in there, and Ed Begley, and I'm like, who the hell is he? Well, his dad was an actor, and he's had a hell of a career, but it's like, he's running around the room, and everybody's impressed. Hey. So the late 70s, I hit it in the 80s, I hit it in the 90s, I hit it in the aughts, and I'll probably go down there maybe again here soon, just to show my face. Because every time I've come to California, I was getting paid. They flew me down to Universal Studios to do America's Got Talent.
Yeah, nice.
Now, I'm at the Sands Hotel. I'm working valet. David Brenner says, I got to go over such and such an address on Rancho Road. How do I get there? I go, David, go up Sahara, turn right on Rancho, go down the street. You're going to see a brown house and a brown barn. That's where you want to go, and tell Shecky I said hello. How do you know that's Shecky Green's house? I go, because I'm a young comic, and all his comics know where Shecky lives. He goes, now remember, this was in probably 90. He says to me, well, if you're a comic, tell me a joke. I go, all right. I said, what does William Kennedy Smith and Mike Tyson have in common? He goes, well, I don't know. I go, women who just say no. Because that was during the Nancy Reagan thing and all of that, right after her. So now, this was 90, now we're flying down to do America's Got Talent the same year Terry Fader's on. And who's standing in line to fly down there? David Brenner. I go, hey, David. I said, I'm flying down to do AGT. I said, I met you in Valet years ago. And I said, this joke I told you. And he goes, you know what, I did that joke. I go, yeah, no wonder your act's gone in a crapper. Now the people standing there are hearing us banter, and they're laughing. David's laughing, I'm laughing. This guy's standing there, and he goes, you know what, I'm an attorney. I would play poker every Friday night with Buddy Hackett. Because his daughter, Hackett's daughter, is an attorney.
Yeah.
So now he says, David starts saying, he goes, you know what? Buddy Hackett gave me my first break. He got me in my first television gig. I said, how funny is that? I said, Sandy Hackett got me my first television break. Get me on the Gong Show. Nice. So it was fun. God rest his soul too, Jesus. Everybody's stepping off the earth. But just interesting stuff in that respect. Just having fun, kibitzing with the people, I stop and think of all the people now. I was on SAG-AFTRA nominating committee a few years ago. Oh, wow. So this one comic friend of mine, Slammin' Sammy, we go down, I take him down to see the movie Wonder Wheel that Bellucci did. Okay. So now afterwards, we're walking across the parking lot, and there's Jim standing there. Well, he's talking to somebody that looked like a good friend of his. I said, just stay here, Sammy. Wait till he's done, Yeah. So he got done, then we walked over. Well, Sammy told me while we were standing there, I got to tell you, he goes, I was doing Groucho Marx. I think he said at the MGM, which is now Bally's, or no, it's Horseshoe. And he goes, I'm running around doing Groucho Marx, and Sam and Dave is up there jamming away on the stage. And Bellucci jumps up there and starts playing with them. So now we walk over to Jim. I go, hey, this guy was there when you jumped on stage. He goes, oh, wow. And he started talking. Yeah. Now I hand him my card. And I said to him, I go, Jim, when I handed this card to Tommy Chong, he looked at my card and goes, I know you, man. I've seen you, man. And now Bellucci's laughing at hearing the voice. Yeah. I told him, you ever have any tax problems, get a hold of me. Yeah. But that was fun. We got a couple of pictures and stuff. And just all the different people over the years that you bump into. And if you bump into somebody, don't be afraid to talk to them because you've been on stage. They appreciate that. I mean, Carlin sat there when we did the Forrest Duke show together in Vegas, and we played our act for him before he even came out on the sound stage with us.
That reminds me of a question I usually ask. What's your favorite fan interaction? Like someone, like either someone was a fan of your comedy that you just saw randomly, or even after a show or whatever.
Here's a nutty story. All right, I do the Gong Show in '89, right? Now I'm 1998. I'm shooting pool in Cleveland at Becky's Tavern with a lady named Holly that I'm renting the top floor of the house from. We own the table all night long. These iron workers get off at like 1:30 in the morning. He comes walking in, this big guy, puts his quarter on the table. I rack him up for him because on the east side of the Mississippi, if you put up the money, you break the rack. But on the west side, if you own the table, you break the rack. That's how that works, right? So now this guy on the break knocks the 8-ball in. I go, dude, who the hell are you to come in here and take my table from me on the first shot? And he's over the table with the pool, and he looks at me and goes, I saw you on the Gong Show. I go, how the hell? I don't have the puppet in my hand. How the hell could that be possible?
It's like 9 years later.
Yeah. He goes, you had a big Cleveland Browns button on your shirt. And everybody in Cleveland was asking, who's the dude on the Gong Show? I said, what's your name? He goes, Michael Fazio. Wow. I go, is your family Fisher Fazio Foods? And he goes, we were. He goes, but the mob was too involved. We got out of it.
Oh, wow.
No, really. And I mean, that just amazed me. And like to this day, I've never forgot the man's name, and I never will. And if, Michael, you're out there and you see this, or somebody says that, you let them know. Oscar still remembers you, buddy. I mean, that was just amazing to me.
That's awesome.
That was pretty wild. I've had people look at me because I've been in about every movie shot in Vegas and TV shows and stuff, you know. So I've stood in Denny's and have a guy look at me and says, I've seen you in the movies. I want your autograph. You know, I thought, well, that's pretty wild, you know. That's kind of neat, you know. So it's been a fun life. I mean, geez, now I'm 72 this next week. I can't believe the time
So
flew.
do you still have any goals for comedy? Or?
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. I want to do our Guys with Dolls show with James.
Sure.
And then after he does his bit, me and Bernie will come out and with Ricky and do a duet together and do some banter together. Okay. Nobody's ever done that before. So I'd like to see something like that. Nice. Now, for Halloween with the disgruntled clown at the Funny Stop, I dressed up as Marilyn Monroe and the wife dressed up as Elvis. Well, I got on stage that night with the puppet. Wow. And I was Marilyn. Hi, Bernie, how are you? Hey, lady, how you doing? I should have been doing drag all these years. Yeah. So Frank Marino, the big drag guy in Vegas, everybody knows, I said to him, Frank, have you ever seen anybody do drag with the puppet? He goes, no, that'd be interesting. Because most of these drag queens, a lot of them don't speak. They just dance around to the music and stuff like that.
Sure.
Now, he would do Joan Rivers and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And that's to me, that's pretty talented. Dressing up like a woman and dancing around, okay, good for you, you know, whatever, you know. I want to laugh, you know. I want to see something funny or whatever, you know. But, yeah, I thought that, in fact, it wasn't too long ago, he commented on something. This had to be 10 years ago when I was talking to him at the Tommy Wynn Theater. And I posted it on there, and he goes, I remember. So I thought that was kind of neat.
That's awesome.
I mean, if I had a venue that would do that, I would do it. Why not? You know, if they want to pay you. I mean, because like I've headlined before it wasn't even a comedy club. It was at a place up in Fruita, Colorado, a sports bar.
Yeah.
Well, he paid me $400 and then tipped me another $100.
Nice.
And then he sent us $100 for gas. I got Tom Matthews out of L.A. to drive, and he got like $100 for featuring. They paid him another $50. They put us up in the hotel. They fed us real good. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You know, I'd rather feature a lot of time and let the headliner have to do the hour. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But in Vegas, headliners doing a half an hour, I'd go for that. You know, I would do that. You know, I should probably push maybe a little more, but I'm not kind of a pushy guy. I'd rather have people say, hey, you know, come with me. It's like Brian Hoffman. He saw me, and then he started booking us all over Ohio, you know, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, that's when you can perform every night, especially when you're making a few bucks, it makes you feel good.
Oh, yeah.
And then you just get better. You keep doing it all the time. And then when you're on stage, it's so important to record your act because ad-libs will come to you. Like I say, Bernie, what do you want to do now that you're in San Diego? You're old lady when you ain't looking. You know, there was an ad-lib off the top of my head one night. Yeah. You know, I've had different ad-libs pop up like that. I go, oh, better write that down and keep track of that one. You know, and with having a video production company, that's why Oscar and Ernie, the Ain't brothers, I started videotaping. And we taped our act, and other people said, tape this, tape that. And then it was like, I'm going to go after weddings. And my mom says, well, who would ever hire you to do that? I go, Mom, look how many photographers are getting hired to do weddings. Yeah. You know, so it just grew into a business. Nice. And I ended up selling that business to a Producers Releasing Corporation, a movie company, in 1987. They were paying me $500 a week, plus my contract said if I was out on the road overnight, they had to pay me another $25. After 2 years, because I named the business Academy Award Video Productions because I'm Oscar. So, and they loved the name. So I had in the contract that they don't renew my contract, I get to take my stuff and go. Well, they paid me for about a month, and then the stock market crashed in October of '87 and wiped them out. I had 60,000 shares of stock at $1 a share, and it dropped to nothing overnight. But I mean, you know, you just get up and go again, you know, keep hustling, you know. Yeah. George Burns told me never quit, you know.
That's right.
I was like 35 years old, and he was 95, and he was so shocked when I said, oh, that's great, George. Why is that? I flopped for 10. I'm halfway there.
So you see a lot of comics like taking breaks and then coming back?
I've seen that. A guy just today on Facebook said to me, you know, you told me 7 years ago I should be getting on stage. He goes, I got to start doing it again. Yeah. You know, but whenever I took a little lull, I was always writing. Stuff. Sure. And I never took off, I don't know, maybe no more than a month.
Yeah, that's
I
great.
mean, you know, it's like the limelight. Like I mentioned in that one post, I'm like a moth in the limelight, you know. It's such a rush being out there on stage.
And, you know, I always, even before I did comedy as a comic, I would always use comedy to like deal with life and the world. So it's like now, it's like I can't go more than a few days right now without getting on stage. It's like a release mechanism.
Well, you got a place here. This is fantastic. Yeah. It's like I was told many years ago, always find the funny. Yeah. Always find the funny. I mean, everything you look at, we used to do an improv. We go 1,001 inanimate objects, walked into the bar, and the bartender said, boom. An example, 1,001 light bulbs walked into the bar. The bartender says, I'm not going to serve you because you guys are already lit up. And we would do that to the audience at the improv at the end of our open mics.
Nice.
And we'd say, okay, this is what, you know, an inanimate object, and somebody yell out like somebody's name. No, go back to school, you know. We want an inanimate object, you know. And so
teach them what an inanimate object is.
Yeah, well, Joe is pretty inanimate. So yeah, and that forces you. And the other night, Skippy Sprinkles at his open mic on West Charleston at the neighborhood bar. People come down there at 6:30 in Vegas. He said at the end of the show, because most people are gone, and me and Sammy and this other fellow was there, and he goes, I want you guys to tell your best one-liners. So, all right, I got up and I said, I almost had a wet dream last night, but I woke up in time to whack off. Goofy stuff like that's the kind of stuff I write. So we go boom, 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 boom. And I said afterwards to Skippy, I go, it's good you made us do that. It makes you reach, it makes you think. Yeah. You're standing up there on your feet now. Like you were saying earlier, like a little improv, Yeah. And that's a good thing to do, to get the comics going. Plus it develops camaraderie between the comics. Now we're not fighting against each other if we're doing 1,001 whatevers. Yeah. Because they say, okay, one guy yells out hammers. Okay, well, 1,001 hammers walked into the bar, and the bartender said, I'm serving you because you're already hammered, things like that. Just off the top of my head. But people would yell stuff out. Now, I'd be sitting there thinking, or standing there thinking, oh, what can I put up with that? And then somebody else comes up with something. Yeah. And then that triggers it, and then he does 1,001. And then I do 1,001 off the same kind of thing and have a different punchline to it that still lines up with it, Nice. So those kind of techniques. But if you're always finding it funny, if you're just standing around talking to people, always leave them laughing. So like whenever I talk to somebody, like even last night messing with you, shaking hands, it was a little goofy. But, you want people to remember you, Absolutely. And if they laugh, then the next time you see them, they already got a smile on their face.
That's right.
They're happy to see you. There's 2 great books every comic should read.
Okay, here we go.
Unlimited Power by Tony Robbins. Okay. And there's only one book he quotes in there, is A Man Thinketh. And it's only about 90 pages, and a very wealthy man in Cleveland used to pass that book out to people. Mr. Boyce, God rest his soul. And an excellent book. And it talks about circumstances reveal the person in themselves. If you wake up in crap and you're an adult, sorry, you put yourself there. Nobody else did. Everybody wants to play the victim. It's somebody else's fault. But no, it's your fault. Now, kids that get hurt, no, that's different. But as adults, we got to take responsibility. So, all right, Unlimited Power by Tony Robbins, because one of the things it talks about, like I mentioned to you earlier, what did you remember that you saw, heard, felt, or smelt? And the smell's kind of like a punchline. People are 3 types of people. You're either an audio person. Oh, I hear what you mean. You can pick up on people that say, oh, I hear that. Right. Oh, I see what you mean. They're a visual person. Right. If it's, I feel you. I felt that. They're kinesthetic, what they call a feelings type based person. They talk a little slower usually because they're thinking internally. So with knowing that, you want to tie in the audience. You don't want to lose people. So I would start with, like, what did you see? What did you hear? So now those people, subconsciously, I'm dialing them in, without them really knowing it. It's trigger words. Then the other great book, like I say, is The 3 Keys by Mark Hamilton. I don't agree quite with all this emphasis on pride. I'll be very proud of your success. I'm very proud of Drew Carey's success. Really, because I know I'm his Forrest Gump. I got his brain going, but he's really intelligent. He's got high IQ. And Mike Malik told me that years ago when he was working with him. Poor Malik, he never drove anywhere. He would have been famous if he would fly somewhere or drive somewhere. Everybody had to pick him up and take him somewhere. But he said that too about Carey. And when Carey was staring at my dad's picture, he was laughing and looking at it a little too long. It's like this one guy in a bar, we're talking about whatever it was, and he was German. I said, you ain't no more German than me. I goes, I'm a Heine. And he started laughing. And he's laughing a little too hard and a little too long. I go, wait a minute now. Tell me why that is so funny, because my last name is Heine. He goes, well, in Germany, we call it Heine's hillbillies. That's the term for hillbillies. And I go, well, that figures, because my great-great-granddaddy came over from a little town called Pfalz in Bavaria, out of the mountains, But, you spot things like that, and it's important, like I say, always leave them laughing. If you can think of something, when you meet somebody new, you want to say their name a couple of times before you get their name.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't forget it later. Right. This is going back to that hook, the 1 run 2 zoo thing, because it's all part of the techniques of, and you want to develop rapport with people. You don't want them to think that you're, copying them in a stupid way, mimicking them. But you want to develop rapport with people. But you also have to,
make sure you don't err on the side of trying to get everyone to like you.
Right.
Because there's people who are just not going to like you.
Right.
You just got to not worry about that.
Right. The first 15 seconds, they say, people make a judgment call on you pretty quick. Right. You know, so, you know, and especially on stage, this is the things you want to remember. I mean, it's like I could look at that couple only a couple of times, then I was done looking at him, because she would like almost turn away, and he'd kind of turn away, and these people over here are laughing good, sitting behind us against the wall. And the girl that came in there and her fella, they're laughing good. Some of these other people were laughing. Yeah. I could hear a few comics in the back. They heard something new they never heard before. You know, I laugh really good at comics because I don't hold back. You know, some people are thinking, oh, I wish I would have wrote that, you know. And,
yeah. I'm trying to get everyone to all the comics to stop asking who's a comic and who's a regular person, because like that divides the audience. Because the audience doesn't know who's the comics, right? Like, why do we have to like make the regular people, the civilians, the other?
Right.
You know, they just let them be surprised that, oh, that person went on stage, and then that person went on stage, and oh my God, almost the whole audience went on stage except for us two. You know, like,
right.
I get it.
Right, I see what you're saying. But when you're on the mic, don't ask where the other comics are.
I'm trying to get everybody that even though it's technically an open mic, it's a show first. The
right.
features go first.
Right.
It's a show,
right.
and then the open mic.
If you noticed, I don't know, but when I was clapping, when you bring the people off, and then you say, let's hear it for them, I never stop clapping. I'm clapping the whole time. Yeah, and you know, and that's just, you know, to me, proper etiquette for the poor bastard that was up there bearing his soul, you know. Yeah. And like my wife says, she goes, even if a guy, I can't hear him real good, because he get on the mic maybe too loud or stuff, because I wanted to make sure I backed off enough, because it gets muffled, and my old ears is getting a little rough. And but still, when other people laugh, man, I gotta laugh too. You know what I mean? She says, I thought this was brilliant on her part last night when we were driving out. She goes, I always try to find something that I can laugh at. Yeah. You know, I want to encourage them. Because she's been around me 26 years, and she knows what it's like, you know, going through, seeing all the stuff that she's seen. She's seen so many comics. Yeah. But, yeah, it's a great fraternity. In most cases, everybody helps everybody. The work that I've gotten over the years has always been from other people referring me. Yeah. Tom Garland gave me the greatest intro when I was working the week with Tom Green. He hooked me up with Tom Green. Nice. Rob Schneider's brother, John's the one that booked it. I mean, in my phone, I got Doug Stanhope's number and Schneider and a bunch of people. Yeah. And I used to have Carlin, you know what I mean? I'd call George once or twice a year and just bullshit with him, you know? And when he had his own TV show, I asked him, I go, is there any way I could deliver a pizza and say, here's your pizza, you know, get a speaking part? And he goes, oh, the writers have got me so tied up in this, it's a bunch of bullshit, you know, and he did his show. But, and Russell Brand, I did 2 movies with him, and I showed him a picture of me and the puppet, and I said, Russell, I go, if you need an opening act, he goes, well, I don't know about this Oscar character, but I can see this Bernie fellow. So, and then I did, that was Get Him to the Greek. And hanging out with him and talking a little bit. And then we did another movie down on Fremont Street, and he was with Julianne Hough, the dancer. And it was so freaking cold. And they had too many extras there. Yeah. And a bunch of us was like, well, we don't need you guys. And I'm hiding in the back, you know. I'm old. I don't need to freeze my ass off out there, you know. So Russell comes to me, like, hey, Russell, good to see you again. He goes, oh, I remember you. And he goes, come outside and have a little chat. And I go, yeah, it's kind of cold out there. He turned around and paid for hot chocolate and coffee for everybody in there.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, there's just some beautiful people. And he was kind of lib at one point, and I let him know a few of the things that I've seen. And he goes, whoa. And I even got more, but, you know, we're not going to go that route here. But, you know what I mean? It's just the way things are, and people don't get bamboozled. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Unless I'm talking to you and we're doing comedy.
Okay. Well, I could have this podcast go for 3 hours if we wanted to, but
how much time we
should. We're getting over, almost going on 2 hours. So,
wow.
So we should wrap it up and do the promo real quick. But everybody should go see live comedy.
Yes.
Watch everybody's everybody has a podcast, yeah, but listen to comedy podcasts. Support local comedy, no matter what it is. Go see plays. Okay, so I'm going to say goodbye, and then we'll do the promo. Yeah, get his book on Amazon. That's amazing.
Thanks.
All right, bye.
Bye. Adios, amigos.